Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you for those of you joining on Zoom. And we got glad to be back in live, and so we'll continue to do these meetings live and Zoom. Okay, good job.
Oh boy, all right. Okay. I am Scott Turner, owner-operator of Radford Radon Abatement and sometimes Plumbing, and I'm tickled to be here. I have the greatest respect for you guys as realtors, and I'll tell you why. Your job is tougher than mine. I've said that before, and I sincerely mean it. I go through houses, I drill through holes in concrete, come home, put ice on my back, and you guys, your guys' job is tougher. I believe that you deserve degrees in psychiatry after 4 years, honestly. I happen to be a dues-paying member of the New River Valley Association of Realtors, just like you, and I'm actually a failed realtor. That's how I know your job is so hard. I'm serious. 20 years ago, I said, you know what? I like people. People like houses. I'm going to sell real estate. And I think I sold 3 houses in a year and a half. So naturally, I transitioned into a regular job after that, and I went over to Dish Network, strapped myself into a chair for 4 years, and had my ass chewed out about how nobody can watch TV. What am I supposed to do? Take my kids to a park and play with them? Yes, that's a fantastic idea. But at any rate, after that, I got into plumbing. Still like people. People need plumbing. And so after that, Paul DeMaio sold a house for me, and it required a radon system. And I saw the radon system and said, by golly, I think if I put my mind to it, I can do something like that. So 8 years later, here we are. And so we got a long way to go, short time to get there, get this party started. So first things first. You have fudge back there. All the people that didn't show up, I hope these folks will leave you some. I even put Ziploc bags for you so you can divvy it up. There's no excuse. I'm not taking one bit of that home because I bought 2 of them. I didn't realize how big they'd be, and so I've got my own problems on fudge distribution. So that's for you. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So, well, why don't you move? Okay, cool. So, Radford Radon Abatement, that is me. We can move on past that. So, what's radon? What's all the fuss about? Well, it happens to be the 2nd leading cause of lung cancer. It's all around us. It's been found everywhere, 50 states, 7 continents. And we seem to have more than our fair share where we live, and it comes up every time you sell a house. Well, what determines if we have radon in our homes? Geography, geology, how the home is built, and just plain luck. Here's kind of where the rubber meets the road. This is a radon zone map of the United States, and if your intuition is telling you red is bad, you'd be correct. Here we are. That's us. We are in zone 1. That's our little cluster, Giles, Montgomery, Pulaski. That's us. So what that means is we have a higher probability of having radon in our homes than anybody else in the country, but as you can see, it sort of gets better as we go down there. All right, so radon, how I get into your world is I'm one of the 3 main contingencies on all of your contracts. You got termites, you got pests, you got home inspection, and then you got me. You're going to ask when you sell a house, all right, cool, you got your price right, and you want to live here and all, so do you want to have a radon test? They're going to say, well, what is radon? No, that's boogeyman crap. Or, yes, I do. So I've created what I call a decision tree. My wife's called it an algorithm, and I thought that sounded uppity, so I'm going with decision tree. And so do you want a radon test? No. So your journey's over. You can move on to the rest of your stuff. What is radon? So I have a lot of videos that I've created when I got into radon, because when I'd get stumped, I couldn't find anything on YouTube myself, and so after I'd figure it out or contact somebody that was nice enough to tell me, I'd go ahead and put the thing on YouTube. And so as a resource for you, you can just simply go to YouTube, Radon Man, Introduction to Radon, just send your customers these links when you want to explain what radon is and not get all tripped up or worried about getting tripped up. I show them a condensed version of this presentation. So boom, send your clients to that link, and which might result in a yes, if they haven't already decided yes to test their home for radon. And most all the home inspectors in our area will test for radon, so they got you covered there. So if it comes back under 4 picocuries, you're done. Typically, I have treated homes where people wanted a system no matter what, or if it comes back above 4 picocuries, there you go, the road leads back to me. By the way, picocuries, if you're curious, that unit of measurement is in radioactivity. You might recognize that name, Curie, Madame Curie, who dedicated her life to studying radioactivity and ultimately gave her life to that. So, looks like you're going to need the radon man. I strive to visit all the homes in advance of installing a radon system, and there's reasons behind that. I could probably go to 90% of them cold and be just fine and land on my feet. But when I go to the homes in advance, meeting with homeowners can be advantageous for both of us. Well, I have picked out places where the system should go, and I've had a homeowner say, wouldn't it be better if you went over there? And they were right. So I try not to have an ego, and it's good to do stuff like that. You get the lay of the land. Sometimes I need to pull my van around. One, get permission, see if it's possible. Discover surprises like sump pits and crawl spaces that sellers might have forgotten to mention or overlooked. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Pets, if the homeowner's still living there, you got to deal with pets. And also, this is the most important one. It allows me to illustrate placement of the system, which will be of interest to your buyers. I've been in many homes where the seller says, I don't care where you put it. Your buyers care where we put it. And so I can get little sneak peeks and illustrate where we're going to put it. I'll show you that here in a little bit, and everybody's on the same page, because there is that thing called the final walkthrough, and we don't want your buyers freaked out on that last day right before they're supposed to sign all those papers. So, all right, so how do we remove radon? Well, there's a few methods, and I'm going to show you those right now. So the classic is the sub-slab depressurization, and that's this thing right here. This is what most everybody is used to. How many of you guys seen this before? Yeah? Okay. So what we're doing is we are trying to draw air / radon out from under your slab. All right, can you guys at home see me there? All right, so this represents the concrete slab that I drill through, and we're hoping and praying that below that slab is a good gravel base right there. And that will enable us to move a heck of a lot more air. Can you guys see over here? I'm blocking you out. All right, so the metaphor that I describe for that is sipping a glass of iced tea through a straw. The gravel represents the ice, and yeah, you know how simple that moves. Easy. If we don't have a good gravel base, we have a milkshake scenario, and that's a lot harder to move air and remove radon. We have solutions for that, but this is a conventional fan right here, and that's what she does. This is another version of that. And for the persnickety folks, we have a box version of that. Comes in handy from time to time. I've put those on what I call stately Wayne Manor houses. And
the only difference for that is just the looks.
Correct. So that's a conventional. This is not high suction. I'll get into that right now. High suction. This is high suction versus. They look, you know, to the untrained eye, they look the same, but this is a 3-inch, this is a 4-inch inlet and outlet. And sometimes, so that's not a good day when I'm putting one of those on, because sometimes we have to do more work on those. These are older houses, typically, or where a builder might have cut some corners on putting gravel underneath the slab. And so sometimes we'll have to add a second suction point. That's the typical solution when we're having trouble removing air from homes with poor gravel content underneath the slab. High volume. This belongs to Donna Travis right here. This is going on a mansion she just sold recently with John. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Let's see, so we are on the right screen. So this one right here, this is to draw, we need gravel, good gravel under there. It's not going to work in mansions with poor gravel. But at any rate, we're praying for good gravel. A homeowner said, she built it, and she said there's good gravel under there.
It's not too old, so I would say should be.
I've heard that before.
You better have good gravel for $700,000.
So yeah, look, I mean, just look at this mamma jamma. So this will do between like 2,400 and 4,000 square feet, just a big old footprint. All right. I thought it would really be cool for you guys to actually see these things today. So you can talk about till you're blue in the face, but when you see it, you know. All right. So depressurization, subslab depressurization. So we've moved on from that. The other main one is crawl space encapsulation, and this is sort of a before picture. And I have tons of video content for you and your clients on that YouTube channel there. Let's see here. There's a couple of them. So what we're doing there, the objective is still the same. Draw air out from under the home, which removes the radon. So in a crawl space, what we're doing is we're creating a new ceiling by putting underlayment, which is more often than not black, and we adhere it to the walls and the posts. And so that pipe right there, this is before and this is after. That's the same home right there. And so we just draw the air out from under that. And sometimes we get into clear underlayment. If most of it's already clear, we just might as well go with that flow and continue it with clear. Anybody got any questions on that so far? No? Fan still looks the same on the outside. You know, it's all right. Passive radon system activation. So nowadays, when builders build homes, they're required to install what's called a passive radon system in the home. So what that means is you got the pipe in the basement sealed into the floor. It's routed up through the home behind the walls, first floor, second floor, and then reveals itself again in the attic. And so, you know, say the house was built, say 10 years ago, and they sell it, and then the test is done, and hey, we got higher radon than 4. What that means most of the time is the system just needs a helping hand. And so we're going to mount that fan right there in the attic in line and just make it do better. And can things come up with passive radon systems? You betcha. I've had situations where it was much easier, it would have been much easier to simply just scrap that and abandon that passive radon system and just build one from scratch. So if we encounter such a situation, I've got video references to share with your folks why is this going in a direction where we can't just slap a fan in. For example, they might not have left enough room for me in the attic to slip a fan in. Another example is they might have actually suffocated the pipe when they poured the floor. That video right there, both those things happened to me. That video right there also has Dolly Parton and Sheryl Crow in it too, so you might want to check it out. Sump pits. Well, sump pits are a factor as well, and they can be a huge factor. So we got 3 options when we see a sump pit. We can cover them, make a part of our system and actually draw air from them, or sometimes we get lucky and we can ignore them altogether. That middle one right there, that house had just received its certificate of occupancy and tested for 44 picocuries. That's pretty darn high. That's almost 10 and a half times where we need to be. And the powers that be said, this house is safe to move into. And that particular sump pit had some funky way of actually, it felt like it was blowing radon, just amplifying it. And as soon as we covered it and drew from there, we obliterated it. So there's something that we want to watch out for. That was one of these newer houses in Christiansburg, back behind the farmhouse. Wow. I don't know what the subdivision's name is. I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see. All right, so we're good there. All right, so we.
So the passive systems just, they don't have a fan to suck anything out? Is it just?
Correct.
So it just,
It's
like it's supposed to just flow through the pipe all the way out?
like a chimney effect.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right, so, oh man. Anyway, what this was supposed to say is sometimes the radon abatement is not multiple choice. We get all of the above. Has that happened? You betcha. So, and you're going to have that that kind of happen to us on homes with more than one footprint. And a good example of homes with more than one footprint are homes with additions. And early 1900s farmhouse, this one had 5 additions. It had everything. It had no gravel under a slab. It had a sump pit and some crawl space encapsulation. Side note on this, this is a perfect example of why I like to go out to houses before saying, yeah, it's going to cost this, and I'll see you on this date. Cool. These folks called a phone number, and the voice over the phone promised them the world for next to nothing. And they took that information and they bought their house, and then they called that outfit out, and they showed up and they said, there is no way in hell we can do this for that. It ended up costing them 3 times more than what the voice over the phone had promised them. But anyway, they're where they need to be now. And
so why is it more difficult to do homes with additions?
we're treating more than one footprint. So let's see. Well, let's see. All right, so for instance, a ranch house, all right, that's one footprint right there. We're going to put that pipe in, somewhere right there, and we're going to draw air out from under that. So if somebody adds on to that ranch style house, all right, so they're going to put another thing right over here. However we're treating this under the slab, it isn't communicating over to that addition. This is a good example of what we're coming up on. Split level homes, they have like staggered basements. So you got level 1, level 2, level 3. It's like jig-jags or zigzags. So when homes are tested, more often than not, the home inspector is going to set it at the lowest living level. So I've noticed a lot of split level homes at the very lowest living level is utilitarian, washers and dryers and not much going on. But you're doing all your living usually on that second level, right? And so how I like to treat those is we're catching that where the inspector found radon, but if we tee over, I can pull from that zone as well. So that's a second, footprint that we're treating and pulling out.
The footer sort of determines the space, and it won't suck underneath of the footer. So if you got a footer in a box here and a footer in a box there, you got to have 2 systems or 2 drops like that.
Yeah, that's your. Darren, you nailed it. If this real estate thing doesn't work out, you can come right around for me.
I'm too fat and old.
He's been told that before on other things in meetings. If it doesn't work out, you got a bunch of side gigs.
So this right here, this is a house that Sheila sold, actually. And so this comes back to visiting the house and making a plan that everybody can see. And so they're not surprised. It's going to go, that fan's going to be kind of concealed by a bush. It's going to reveal itself into the house in an unfinished area like that. So that kind of comes back to visiting the house. We're pretty much knocked out most of the methods of radon mitigation that you're going to encounter. Donna might recognize that one. That's our house, and with visiting this house, you see it's no accident that we want to put the radon fan. Look at all those goodies right there, and noisemakers, HVAC unit, and satellite dishes, and generators. Yeah, so that's the most seldomly seen side of the house, and I can't believe I actually said that right at the first try. And so coming in here, because we visited, we know that we're going to need to sidestep the water heater. And that'll be our 4-inch pipe that stubs in right there, and we just pull it out of there with this big old thing. Yeah, fashion versus function. That's something I'm always up against with regards to installing radon systems, because nobody wants to see them or hear them, but yet you want them to do what you want them to draw all that stuff out of there. All right, so the art of making radon systems concealed yet accessible. So here's another split level, and this is actually the first one I've encountered that had poor gravel content, because it's typically kind of a newer style home, but we had to actually, okay. So you crawl in the other one, that's that second level there. And then when we drilled this hole, we discovered, hey, there's no gravel under here, so we had to extend it right there. So in the end, it's concealed with a closet. Also out here, we had to put the radon system, or the fan, excuse me, underneath the deck. So everything was pretty concealed, all in all, so I'm tickled with that. But it was a heck of a job. Let's see. Oh my gosh, we're already at the end. So celebration. What that means is I'm friends with a lot of you on Facebook, and when you sell a house, if I can, I try to put it out there that, hey, Ryan sold a house. Actually, Ryan sold that house. I didn't know until after the fact I would have put you on there. Old dirty old Paul got all the credit.
She told me, my client said, hey, look at this video.
Yeah, no such thing as overexposure.
And loved it.
Yeah, and that one's kind of unique. We put a valve on that one. I'm not going to get too nerdy about it, but what we wanted to do is divert most of the suction to the bigger part of the footprint. This is a second footprint here. Not necessarily an addition, but it just panned out to where we had a second footprint. So now I will open the floor to questions, so long as I appear intelligent and cool.
So on that one with the valve, is that something that the client needs to do anything with at any point, or what is the, what's the reason behind the valve, and anything that they need to do with that?
They don't need to do anything with it. I put that there because my mindset is, what if something goes wrong? What if I need to come back? What do we do if I do come back? So on this particular one, I thought to myself, all right, if we just make a smaller piece of pipe here and a bigger piece of pipe there, I might not have even needed the valve. But if I needed to choke this off to divert more suction, I wanted that to already be in place. So it's
more so for if you get a call from somebody in a few years having an issue, then you would know kind of what you would need to do at that point.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I figured. Cool.
I got a couple. So this is not a question, but this is just to say Scott is the only one that I've ever dealt with that comes out ahead of time and looks at the house. I mean, before that, I had never had that. And he's also very reliable. He's never not shown up, which has happened to me in the past years ago. And my clients get very upset when they take off work and then there's nobody that shows up that day. But
thank you. I like to eat.
And also, I have texted him on a Sunday morning at 7:15, and he has said, okay, I'll be out there at 9:30 that morning checking out that vacant house and figuring out what's going on. But two things. I had no idea the reason. I thought that sometimes that when you have had to put two systems in one of our listings before, I think on Oakland and Pulaski, that was a difficult one. Belonged to a pharmacist in town, and that was a difficult one. But I actually thought that the reason you had to do that was more because of the square footage. So it's good to know, since I'm paying you for the radon system in Hiwassee, since the seller will not pay, I am paying for my clients to get a radon system. But it's good to know that that big fan, you can use that, and it won't cost hopefully more than $1,200 since I'm paying for it. But that was interesting. But would you, my question is, would you address for the agents, I know this answer and I know most people do, but when they go in, when they're representing a buyer, and they see the system already in there, lots of people think the meter on the side, the red liquid, tells you how much radon. So if you'll address that, because I have to tell that to agents lots of times, and or if it's not even working. Call Scott. That one's not working.
So, thank you, Donna. You nailed it. This right here fakes so many people out.
Yes.
And what it is it's showing you that your system is off. And there's a little. If you look carefully at the sticker, it says "Call for service" as both columns read 0. So they're both zeroed out. And all this means, this is representing your suction. And because I've got a little bit of resistance right here, it's going to register that, hey, it's meeting resistance in order to get suction. And so the higher the liquid, the more resistance that we're fighting to move air through the gravel or mud. Yeah, does that kind of clear things up for anybody that's never seen that before?
Yeah, because I've been into a listing before, and there's a radon system, and I went into one listing off of Allen Spring Road, and I told them, I said, so you've been living here, and you see your radon system is not on, because they said, we've got a radon system. I said, it's not supposed to be even. Your radon system is not working, and outside there was a power switch. There was an outlet outside next to the fan, and at some point somebody had turned that switch. There was a switch. Somebody had turned it off, and those folks had been living there. Well, the system was put in when they bought it, so they had no idea, and they don't know when it happened, but they had been living there with a radon system they thought was working, but it wasn't even working. And then they walked out and flipped it on, and then immediately, just like that. So sometimes sellers don't realize that either. And I had one down near the New River and on the other side of Hiwassee, and they didn't want the fan to run, the sellers, so they would only turn it on every other day.
Yeah.
The sellers. And I said, seriously, because the power's not very much. And
oh, it's the power. Wow. Yeah, because some people, they think that the sound will just bother them.
yeah, no, it was the power. The seller, and I represent the buyer, but the seller said, no, we just turn it on every other day or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this.
Cancer's not too cheap.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. That particular fan right there. This is the same thing. This is what I use more often than not. It's about like running a 60-watt light bulb. Now that's a lot of giddy up for what it actually does. So
they all have switches?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And where are the switches normally located? Like outside, like what you said?
Good.
That one
Yeah.
was. I mean.
Or are they all different? I guess they're probably all
No,
different.
that's a great question. So we try to put them right next to the fan. There's some situations where they're inside the house, and that's usually at the request of somebody who wants it like that. But you try to put them next to the fan. And oh, I almost forgot. There's something that make me look smart. The U-tube, that's what the cool kids are calling it. That's a manometer, the U-tube. But that's what you call the visual indicator that your system's running. And because you can't, you get to where you're comfortable in the house and you don't even hear your HVAC unit anymore. Same thing's going to happen for that thing. So if you're walking by and you see them kind of leveled out, you know something's wrong because you can't hear it anymore. It's the weirdest thing, but it's true.
Yeah, and if you're the buyer's agent, you ought to tell them, every time you come to the basement, just glance over and make sure it's uneven. And if it's not uneven, then go outside and make sure the switch is on. And then if that doesn't work, call Scott or whoever's on the fan or whatever.
No, still call Scott. It doesn't matter whoever's on the pipe. I've done that. And then also the last thing is that just remember you can call Scott. If you just need him to do a test. I have done that before, so he will come out and test it. So don't, if you're not having a home inspection, or if you have a seller that's concerned, they can call Scott just to come out and test it. And then, so if he doesn't just fix it, call him to test it.
Thank you for that, Donna. Yeah, I will do that.
What do you charge for coming out to do a test only?
$125 these days.
Cool.
What about for like initially testing a house for radon?
Well, I'm happy to do that, but 9 times out of 10, your home inspector will offer that service. So if your buyers are having your home inspected, you just say, hey, by the way, do you do radon tests as well? And so they'll do you pretty good on that. But if you get in a crunch, I'll be happy to do that for you.
So would you recommend, if somebody's system is at 0 and appears not to be, or no, it's not at 0, off-centered, appears to be working correctly, would you say for a new buyer coming in, is it still a good idea to get the house checked for radon?
Yeah.
Sure. I get that a lot with people. They ask, no,
Yeah.
Because it may not be operating properly. It may not be sucking enough, or maybe, you know.
Stuff happens, yeah.
Or if something changes in the, the earth. I remember after the earthquake in 2012, the next year, radon levels were all up because that earthquake shifted everything.
All the way up in D.C.,
yeah. Yeah, all the way up in D.C., and it affected our radon levels here.
Yeah.
So even if it's got a system, still a good idea to get radon tested that time.
Especially if it's, because I think they say about every 10 years, even if you've got one in your house. Don't they say about every 10 years, or is it a certain time that you want to get your house retested?
They say every 2.
Really? Wow.
But, quick little thing, it's kind of like water heaters. You're supposed to drain your water heater every year. How many of you do that?
Shock your well every year.
But there's this one lady who has called me back every 2 years that wanted tested, and I got to the point where I felt bad. I was just like, you can buy stuff online to monitor your radon levels. So I sent her a link and I said, well, if you look at this price, it justifies easily 2 years of me by a long shot. So I'm happy to do it, but want to let you know here because you keep calling me back, and I like you just fine, but but yeah, you're supposed to do that. A lot of people don't.
Well, and it changes with the seasons too. It could be worse with pressures and snow and all that kind of stuff as well. They say that it's better to do a 6-month test or a long-term test or something like that.
Well, I mean, those
48 hours.
You can certainly do them. Yeah, I mean, as far as real estate transactions, those come up once in a blue moon, and the scenario for those is usually when that first short-term test comes in right around 4, and buyers want this done, sellers don't want that done, and they say, well, we'll settle it with a long-term test, and then after that, again, this is where it's harder to be y'all than me, because you got to decide who pays and how much, and I've got an idea of what it's going to be, but then I've got all these scenarios of, well, if this happens, then it's this. If this happens, then it's that. But they come up. They're just rare, yeah.
I had it happen with an estate one time. The attorney absolutely wouldn't do it unless it was a 6-month test, I think. And they escrowed money, worst case scenario to fix the system if it needed it. And 6 months later, we figured it out.
Did it need it?
I don't remember. 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, you guys.
Can you hear me?
I can hear somebody.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Listen, I tried to get my video up and it's not. For some reason, my computer's not letting my face come up. Probably a lesson for all of y'all, but I couldn't get the video up. So I have 2 questions. Number one is, I have about a 2,000 square foot slab that my house sits on. It's the basement of my house. And the radon system is in the far corner, back corner. How is this radon system, one plug going into the ground underneath that concrete slab, efficiently and effectively pulling the radon from that 2,000 square foot footprint? And the second question is, how long do these systems last?
Well, to the first part of your question, radon mitigation is kind of counterintuitive. The systems perform better situated in corners of homes than smack dab in the center. especially in high suction situations. That's just the way it is. There's a couple little factors behind it. I can get all nerdy, but that's why you'll see the majority of them like that, except when they're passive. Sometimes you'll see passive systems that are run up through the center. And then how long do radon systems last? The fans have a 5-year warranty, and they typically last about 10. All right, sure thing.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Unmute yourself and talk if you do, because I can't see the chat. Okay.
All right, I believe
Is
it.
there a big difference in the pricing based on what type of fan you have to use?
A little bit. The high suction fans cost a little more. The high volume fans cost a little more, and there's more work involved with high suction because this pit right here, the suction pit, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. All right, so when we're in a high suction situation, we need to work the heck out of that pit right there because the objective is move air. And I've got gobs of videos on these high suction situations and what we do to achieve it. There is kind of an art to it, and it comes back to being in corners of the home. So I'll go ahead and get nerdy on it. So when you're close to the corner of a home, you're close to the footer. And one thing I've observed is floors sort of form this concaveness. Is that convex or concave? Concaveness. And what that means is I've noticed that they smish the content down. They want to sort of settle, but if they're close to the footers, they're not as smished, and you can achieve airflow by getting. Well, we've worn out a camera, so you can achieve better airflow by getting close to those footers. So stop beeping. So. Yeah, so that's what it's all about, the suction pit and working all that out. And that's why it costs more with high suction, because it's just a pain in the butt to do that. When you've got your arm all the way in a hole underneath a slab, you deserve a little more money. And you're using a flathead screwdriver as your tool. I wish there was something cool and fancy that somebody would come up with, but that is the tool that I use the most when I'm in high suction situations, believe it or not.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do y'all do services in the Lynchburg area?
I have not gotten out that far. So what I would, if you're looking for somebody, the best resource that I know of is to go to www.nrsb.org. So those initials are NRSB, that's the National Radon Safety Board. And you just go to that site, you plug in your zip code, and that'll pull up a list of certified radon pros in that area.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Is that fancy square fan a lot higher or just a little bit higher?
A little bit. Yeah.
It looks a lot better.
Yeah, I actually spray painted that.
Oh, did you?
That's going in, it came white. But you know, sometimes you get somebody really picky, and their home was a cabin, and so naturally bright white's not going to work on a cabin. So yeah, we can paint them. Matter of fact, your seller asked if this could be in gray, so if your buyer wants it in gray, happy to do it for you.
Okay, thank you. Can you just like roughly say, I know they range, but like an estimate for someone needed to put one in? Like, and I know it ranges, so just like a rough range, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, these days they start at 1,000 for something like that. And then when you get into higher suction, those are going to get around 1,200. And then, of course, we're going to date this video. This video is going to be out 10 years from now. People are going to try to hold me to these prices. Passive radon systems, you know, those are some of the easier cards that you're dealt there. If I don't have to do any of that stuff about making a new hole in your attic and making a new suction point for you, those are around 500 now. Yeah.
What about a crawl space, roughly? I know it depends on size and all of that, but
Crawl space, yeah, that's those are the pricier ones. You know, I tried to sub those out and it just didn't work out. Seriously, I you know, I tried to get hooked up with pest control people. Will encapsulate the heck out of a crawl space. They look awesome, and at $2 a square foot, before I even come in, they just priced this out of I call them Bob number 1 and Bob number 2. Bob number 1 just wants to get the radon out and get to the finish line, whereas Bob number 2 is living in his forever house. And so we're primarily in the Bob number 1 area all the time, and so somebody will always do it cheaper. So I now do them myself, and we're better than $2 a square foot. It kills me, but I do it. I did one yesterday.
Okay, any other questions?
I got a quick question, and it's kind of so when you're in the corner of the house and footer, and it's smishing, is that different than a scrunch?
Oh, really?
Great presentation. I had to say something. I love it.
Is that Mike?
Mike Weber, yeah.
Man, I know you. One of your houses was one of the toughest I've ever done, actually.
I was going to say something, but you did a wonderful job on that house on Cranwell Circle. You had to put it was difficult.
Yeah, buddy. But smishing. The correct term is smishing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We really did a great presentation. A lot of great information. Appreciate that.